This is Castle Hedingham, one of the great stone towers built by the Normans, which are perhaps the most impressive reminder we have of the Norman conquest. I'm standing in the bailey and the tower reaches about 30 metres above me. Just imagine being an Anglo-Saxon peasant working in the fields around here and looking up at this great stone tower. I think you certainly know that the Normans were your new rulers, and they clearly meant to stay that way. Anyone wanting to take over the countryside around would have to take this tower first. And as you'll see, that would have been pretty hard. There's only one entrance to the tower, so any attackers would first of all have to fight their way up to it. And in Norman times, the steps didn't even lead straight to the door. In fact, they led into a separate stone gatehouse in front of the tower. You can see the remains of it down there. Between the stone building here and the doorway, there was a gap, and across it there would have been a small wooden drawbridge, which could be raised up to stop any attackers getting across to the door. Let's go and have a look inside the castle. This room's huge, isn't it? This is where the soldiers who guarded the castle would live, where they would eat and sleep and rest. It's freezing cold, partly because the walls are very thick, about 4 to 5 metres, and they would stop any warmth from getting in from outside. On every floor of the castle there's a big fireplace like this, where they would have burned great pieces of tree trunk to try and heat the whole room. This is where they would have cooked their food too, perhaps meat roasting on a spit or a great big pot over the fire. There's no chimney behind here, so in fact the smoke would have billowed out into the room, and this room would have been smoky most of the time. I wonder what went on in here. There are lots of little rooms like this built into the thickness of the walls. Perhaps somebody slept here once, or maybe they stored things here. And this is where a soldier once used to keep a lookout through the arrow slit. He could also shoot at an enemy approaching the castle, but the enemy had no chance of firing an arrow back at him, or even seeing he was there at all. This is the only staircase in the castle. It's very steep. A spiral staircase like this was designed to make it very hard to storm a castle. Only 1 or 2 people at the most could get up these stairs at a time. If I were defending the stairway with a shield like this and a sword like this, it would be very easy for me to defend the staircase and block the path of anyone trying to get up. I've got my arm free here to knock them down with my sword. This is the Great Hall, where the lord of the castle and his wife and children and servants lived. It's a grand, quite elegant room with fine decoration on the rounded Norman arches. Great feasts were held here in Norman times, the people sitting at wooden tables, while steaming plates of food were brought to them from the floor below. Up above the hall there's a balcony where the musicians would have sat and played. And there's still 1 floor up higher. This is the top floor of the castle, where the lord and his family had private rooms and where they would have slept. This large room was probably divided by wooden screens going up to the ceiling. What a view. You can see the countryside for miles from here. With castles like this, you can imagine how easy it was for the Normans to control this country and its people.